Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I'm Gino Bucccola alongside Mike Beer with producer Bobby helping us out for the Thursday race of the day. Before we preview this race, though, we want to let you know that before you make any wagers, you want to head on over to FanDuel, especially for you new customers. They have a $500 no sweat first bet. This is a $500 back promotion. So check that out. Read all the details, read all the fine print, sign up for it now because you're going to need a place to play the Kentucky Oaks in the Kentucky Derby. And we've got the past performances and all the information that you need when you go to play that with the Kentucky Derby packages now available. You can save up to 39% because all of the individual features you would have to pay for: the past performances, the betting strategies, the clocker reports. You put them all together. You'll also get the player's guide. I believe Mike Beer has been a part of the betting strategies many times. You'll see that written analysis there. And Mike Welsh has been doing a fantastic job with those clocker reports all throughout the last couple of weeks at Churchill Downs. We're going to talk about the Thursday race of the day. This one is the opening verse at Churchill Downs. It's a mile on the turf course, Mike. And we can start the talking with Major Dude because he's the 5-2 lukewarm morning line favorite. He's coming into this race in sort of strange form because he was a really solid, like grade 2 kind of horse for a while. And I just thought the placement of his last race was a little bit strange because he was coming off a good effort in the Canadian turf. They put him in a spot that looked really soft on paper, and he just didn't run that well. He was way out of it early. I know the race didn't shape up for him. He had to move down to the inside. There wasn't a whole lot of passing in that race, but he just didn't run his normal race. Like when he's at his best, I feel like he would have handled a field like that last time out.
Yeah, listen, if nothing else, your point's well taken here about the placement. I kind of feel like Pletcher is getting realistic with this horse.
Sure.
He's not really a grade 1 horse or even like a really tough grade 2 kind of. I don't think he's that good. This is the kind of race where this horse, he's supposed to be really, really tough. We'll talk about the Appleton, his most recent start, a little bit later when we get to him. I have no argument with him being the favorite and the horse to beat in here. I'm also not at all afraid to bet against him.
Absolutely. Let's look at the pace projector and see how Timeform US has this thing setting up. Mercante comes off of a really big win last time, although I'm a little surprised to see him in front. I thought he's more of like a stalker sitting right behind the lead type horse. Porfino is pretty close. This horse has shown like legit sprint speed when he's wanted to. So they will be up close. Touch Revenge. He's not necessarily as quick as them, but he wants to be close. He doesn't really want to be coming from way out of it. I'm not surprised to see them kind of up and forward.
Yeah, they seem like the right ones. Even the one Piper's Factor, who has the rail, he's a horse who they've taken a pretty good hold of this horse in some of his recent races. He's got a lot of natural speed, though. I actually, wouldn't mind, seeing them get a little aggressive with him here from the rail and see what they could do. But I do think the 5 and the 7 are logical pace players here.
Let's meet the field for the $350,000 opening verse. This is going to go as race number 10 on Thursday at Churchill Downs. The one Piper's Factor is going to go second start off the bench. He's going to step up off of a 4th in a non-winners of 3 allowance last time out at Keeneland. He did win the Toronto Cup at Woodbine last August over a yielding turf course, but he was behind Langnos in the Commonwealth turf in November at Churchill Downs. Kind of mixed signals with him going back and forth. What do you think about Piper's Factor?
I'm just not really sure how good he is. I'm not sure that, this is necessarily the right spot for him, but I do think he has some things going for him, Gino. I mean, his turf form actually isn't bad. And,
yeah,
you were talking about that Commonwealth last November. That was one of the races I was sort of talking about where, he's up on the pace. They didn't really want to let him take over. And, his rider,
he was in between, right?
Yeah, he had a big hold of him on the outside. Like, he didn't look like he really wanted to settle like that. He was sort of pulling a little bit. I don't know. I thought he ran fine in there. His most recent start, it was off the lead. I didn't think that was a great performance, but he's wide around the track that day. Another race where they just took a hold of him early and didn't let him get over to save any kind of a ground behind a wire-to-wire winner. So I don't think he ran great in there, but I also didn't love the trip that he got. Again, if I was going to bet him here, and I probably won't, at 20-1, I would love to see this rider just send him up the inside from the start and try to put him on the lead.
Be decisive. Just make a decision like that. That's a little more decisive than kind of, do I want to go? Do I want to sit? Do I get caught wide? And you're just not really making a decision one way or the other. Skyro, the number 2, comes into this race not in the best of overall form. I think we just have 1 win in the last 11 starts. That was a 2-back win on the synthetic. That's where he's done most of his damage as of late. His best races have been on synthetic.
I kind of look at him that way too. I mean, he's good on turf. He can run his race on turf for sure. But I ultimately settled on him being at his best on the all-weather surface. That being said, he's another horse. He's a huge price in here. He's got a good post towards the inside. And we're going to talk about the Appleton here in a minute when we get to the favorite, Major Dude. Major Dude had trouble in that race, but so did this horse. This horse had an impossible trip in that race and ran way better than it looks.
Touch Revenge, the 3, is a 9-year-old. He is a 13-time winner, but I have a tough time navigating his trip, Mike, because he wants to be up close in route races, but I think this pace might just be a little bit too fast for him. And if he has to work hard early, I don't know if he's going to have a whole lot late. He doesn't really seem like the type that was going to want to take back and sit. He's done it okay sprinting, where he's kind of fallen into a win a few times there. What do you think about the trip and for Touch Revenge in this spot?
We have the same take on this horse, I think. I mean, he won twice on turf last year. In both of those races, he was absolutely loose on the slowest of paces, and that trip is not coming for him in this spot.
Nope. The number 4, Money Supply, is a grade 3 winner, multiple stakes winner. He has won 2 in a row and now gets back to the turf. So he's been kind of a tricky read for me through the years, because he'll kind of throw a good race or two in and then kind of go off form a little bit. Do you think he can compete with this group?
I'm going to try to stay positive on him for a little while longer. Gino, I think we're starting to get to the point where we're just going to have to say he's better on dirt than he is on turf. But when they made the surface switch for the first time last year to turf. And I know it was, a stakes race on yielding turf in Indiana, and maybe not the toughest field in the world, but I thought he ran great that day when he won that race. And I just feel like I can make excuses for his turf starts after that. And there've only been 3 of them. One of them was in a grade 1 against Carl Spackler. He's not winning that race. The other one is at Kentucky Downs, which plenty of horses hate, behind Goliad. He's not going to win that race. And then the race at the fairgrounds earlier this year, where, you just did not want to be trying to close in that race. That pace was really slow, and he's sitting last around the track. He actually made up some ground at the end of that race, and I thought ran an underrated race. I'm kind of a fan, and I want to stay positive on him if he's going to be a price in here.
Yeah, I agree. If he's in the 10 to 1-ish range, I think that's a very fair price in this spot. Portofino, is he the speed of the speed? Maybe he's a pace factor. I mean, you look a few starts back, this horse going 5 furlongs at Gulfstream Park went sub 44 fractions to the half mile. So he can fly when he wants to.
Yeah, and that's where they want him too. That's his running style, is to be, right up on the pace. That's when he runs his best races. He has shown, I feel like I would say he's shown that he can stretch out in his last 2 starts. I don't know if it's, going to carry on here into stakes races through the rest of the year. These races are only going to get tougher for him, but I liked his race 2 back on the all-weather. I liked his race last time, even though that was a race that was just dominated on the lead between him and the winner. But what I really respect about him, Gino, is he is dead game. In those last 2 races, when they came for him, he couldn't hold on either time, but he did not want to get past.
Number 6, Major Dude. He's just been a funny horse to follow through the years, because he'll put together a few good races and then they would step him up and try a little bit tougher. And as you pointed out, he'd always kind of find a group that was a little tougher, a little classier, grade 1 company, or the tougher grade 2 races. They would just be over his head. And then he got really comfortable with running races in the mid 90 buyers, 95, 96, right in that range. You sort of knew what you were going to get from him each and every time. Coming off the Canadian turf, he goes in the Appleton, and we have a replay that we can show you of the Appleton, where I'm not going to act like the race set up for him or he got a great trip, right? He didn't. He broke slowly. He was at the back of the pack. That's not where he normally is. He's even out wide here, and then he has to kind of alter back down towards the inside. And the top 3 horses in this race, the top 3 finishers, they were 2-1-3 all the way around the track, right? So there was not a whole lot of passing, but that was a group that was probably softer than this group. I think there might be 3 or 4 other horses in this race on Thursday that are better than any of the horses he faced in there. And as you were pointing out, you just kind of feel like he's hit his ceiling. And with some of these other horses, they might have a step up or they might have more growth. He just doesn't feel like a fun horse to bet for me. I can absolutely see him running better in here and running fine, but I just thought there were other more interesting horses.
All valid points. I mean, he just is what he is at this point. It's right there on paper. He's a really good horse. These are the kinds of races where he can be really tough. Going to that race that we just watched, the Appleton. If you go back, we only showed you the stretch run, and he was obviously really running at the end of that race, and they just weren't coming back for him up front. But if you go back to the beginning, I mean, him and Skyro was in that race too. They just sort of knocked off each other at the start of that race, and they just both wound up way back off the pace, and he just didn't want to be trying to close. You can see the final fraction there. I mean, it's the fastest fraction of the race is the last one, and he's trying to close. he's the horse to beat in here. But it was already talked about. I'm not afraid to bet against this horse. I won't be surprised when he wins, but I'm going to bet somebody else.
The number 7, Mercante, gets back to the turf after a really nice synthetic win. But that's my concern with him, Mike. If you play Mercante, I feel like last race was his big race, the one that you may have wanted to bet him at 13-1. On paper, it actually looked like a race that could set up well for him because the race with Encino didn't have a whole lot of speed in there. He kind of looked like a horse who could be there and maybe fall into it. So I respect his ability. I respect what he's done, but it kind of feels like a horse that I wanted to have last time, and this time he's just going to be a much shorter price here.
Man, that's a great point. I don't want to add anything to that except that, I'm a little bit familiar with this horse from him beginning his career in New York with Bill Mott. And if I'm being honest, I never really liked him then. And he hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything since then to make me jump on the bandwagon.
Really interesting horse coming up is the 8, Georgie W. I thought all three of these outside horses are very intriguing just from a handicapping the race standpoint because they're all doing the same thing, Mike. They're all coming back in their second start of the year. So you can expect maybe all three of these outside horses, starting with Georgie W, to step forward off of what they saw for them. Georgie W, you're looking at a race where it was April 7th. It was on the turf at Keeneland. It was taken off the grass. So he's on the dirt. Why I like it, it's just a great race for him to shake off some of the rust, just get the fitness back, build up the fitness. Let's go to 2 starts back when we're looking at Taking Candy, and we can kind of use him as a measuring stick in this race because you see him in a few of these other horses' running lines. I thought Georgie W ran really well that day. He came from way out of it. That was farther back than he had been normally because they were going pretty fast early on. I don't think they'll necessarily be going that fast in here early. I just think he can get a better trip overall. I think he can sit much closer from the outside. I know you like this horse a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm with you on the race off the layoff last time. I think is only going to help him. He ran fine in there anyway, but he's not a dirt horse. He's a turf horse. And I'm just hoping too. He's a 5-year-old with only 6 starts, but he hasn't been the easiest horse to ride in his races. You sort of hope that maybe he's going to grow up a little bit and be a little easier to handle. That Saratoga race you're referencing 2 back. I'm very familiar with the Gino because I really liked him that day, and I bet him in that race. And I remember watching it at the time thinking, boy, that was one of Irad's really bad rides for some reason. Yeah. And then I watched the replay back and I was like, I don't think it's Irad's fault. I think it was sort of the horse's fault. He got in between horses. He didn't like it. And he just gave away tons of position and wound up way at the back of the pack. He came running through the stretch. So this horse has talent. Whether, these are the kinds of races that will ultimately be good for him, he's going to have to prove that. But I think he's good enough to go with these horses, and he's going to be a great price in here.
And I like Luis Saez aboard him to just give him an aggressive placing in this race from the outside where he can keep him in the race. That's Georgie W, who offers very fair value in here. The number 9, Brilliant Birdie, will come back second start after a 5-month break. Chased a lone speed winner last time out. I'd rather be blessed, who blew up the tote board at a huge price. You go back to last year, you're looking at Brilliant Birdie winning the Bryan Station, second in the Secretariat behind Trickery. I mean, overall, he hasn't done a whole lot wrong. And his comeback race wasn't all that far off of some of the figures he was running last year. I was just a little disappointed in it. I know it didn't shape up for him, but I wanted to see a little bit more spark out of that, especially for a horse who I think is going to be a pretty short price in here. What do you think about Brilliant Birdie?
Yeah, he's logical in here too. I don't think I'm as hard on him for his last race as maybe you are. I just didn't think that was another race he probably didn't want to be trying to close ground. And he didn't run great, but maybe that's enough of an excuse. I feel like I don't want to knock his form because all of his turf races are good. I can't say I was a huge fan of his as a 3-year-old last year. And, the Bryan Station win, it's certainly a good effort, but they went wicked fast in there. I mean, they were flying in front of him. That was a big closer's race. He came from last. Depiction came from next to last, and they just ran 1-2 in that race. He's good. I have no knocks on him. I'm probably not betting him if he's 3-1.
Speaking of the Bryan Station, one of the horses who had a troubled trip in the Bryan Station last year, and a horse who I was following a lot last year because he had a lot of trouble trips. There were like 3 different times where whether the ride wasn't necessarily great or he got stuck in traffic. And then when he kind of put it all together and got some better trips, oh, what do you see? He wins the Commonwealth Turf. He comes back and wins another race that was taken off the grass. I was kind of like what you're saying, some of these horses that you're either fans of or not a fan of early on, sometimes your opinion will kind of stick with you. Yeah. I think I've always liked this guy, and I've always thought he might be a little bit better than his overall form because of some of those trouble trips, Mike. What do you think about Langneo's second start back?
We see him the exact same way, Gino. I mean, not only did he have a bunch of troubled trips last year, but he also he spent a part of the summer he's a 3-year-old turf horse and a really good one. And those distances get longer for the really good 3-year-old turf horses. So they tried those races, and I never thought he really wanted to go much beyond a mile. I think he's a miler on the grass, and that's what he gets to do now going forward, because they don't have to point for those longer 3-year-old races. This is what he wants to do. And he's just a very tactical horse. So I don't think the outside draw is a big detriment to him. He can get the right trip even from out there. I thought he was one of the horses to beat, and he's probably going to be the third choice.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And when we get to selections here, you and I think set this race up very similarly, because when I'm looking at like the outside 3 horses, for example, who are all coming second start back off the bench, who I think could all take a step forward, I'm going to use the bigger prices of those horses who I think fit. And you do the same thing. We use the 8 and the 10, who are just a little bit better prices than Brilliant Birdie. I throw Major Dude underneath, but I also will use Brilliant Birdie. So I have Major Dude and Brilliant Birdie as like the horses to beat. I think Georgie W and Langos might be the horses to bet in here. Mike, talk to us a little bit how you stacked it up.
Yeah, I mean, I left Major Dude out, not because I'm way against him, just because I don't want to bet him. I just want to bet other horses. Georgie W, he's going to have to prove it again. We've already talked about it, Gino, but I feel like there's a chance he is a stakes horse. And if he winds up being a stakes horse, this is the time to bet him, because right now he's not exposed. And so if he can go with these horses, he'll do it in this race, and he'll do it at a price. I have Laganos in there because I kind of feel like of the 3 favorites, he's the one that I like the most.
Me too.
I'm not done with money supply yet. There'll be a big price. I got him in there third.
So whoever you play, however you play them, we wish you the best of luck, and we encourage you to head on over to FanDuel and take a look at the new promotion that they have. It is a no sweat first bet $500 back promotion. Join now over at FanDuel. Good luck to everyone playing the races this week, and that Thursday race of the day, you can get free past performances at DRF.com.